Welcome back to part 3 of my thoughts on every Thomas promotional material in existence. It's been a while, hasn't it? When I was finishing up the last bit of part 2, I suddenly stumbled across another web series on the Thomas Wikia known as Thomas and Yang Bao. This was a Chinese exclusive, and unfortunately, there's no English translation for it. All I know is that it stars Thomas and Yang Bao, and it introduces 3 new characters: a caterpillar crane, a helicopter, and a cargo ship. If I have seen it, then I would give it a good score because I'm sure it's as good as Really Useful Around the World and Great Race Friends Near and Far. And I'm sure it's definitely better than Big World Big Adventures in general as well. Speaking of non-English promotional material, have you ever heard of Thomas and the UK trip? This is a Japanese exclusive special not just starring Thomas and his friends, but also these 2 Japanese monster characters named Gachapin and Muku, whatever how you pronounce their names, who were from a Japanese children's show called Pawn Kikis. There are other Japanese crossover specials too, such as the one with Connie visiting America, as well as the one with P-chan called Hello Thomas and James. But unfortunately, like Thomas and the UK trip, none of them were translated to English. Man, if only they had English subtitles. But out of all these Japanese crossover specials, Thomas and the UK trip would probably be my most favorite of them all because it showcases some of the original models and props from Season 3. Let's look at some of the documentaries. But for today, we'll be looking at the Japanese exclusive ones. The first one is called Run, Thomas and Friends Steam Locomotive is Alive, and it was first made in 2005 as part of the 60th anniversary celebration. It features real-life locomotives with some Japanese voice acting such as the Flying Scotsman, Mallard, and Stevenson's Rocket. It also features interviewees including Christopher Audrey himself, who was 65 years old at the time. Here's another Japanese exclusive known as the original 70th Anniversary History Time Travel. Not much to say here, other than that there are 2 versions of this, the 70th Anniversary and the 75th Anniversary. And it was added in the Japanese release of The Adventure Begins as a bonus feature. And just like the last one, the 70th Anniversary version features real-life people being interviewed. Overall, these are interesting documentaries. I just wish there were English subtitles so that we can understand what the people and characters were saying. Now let's move on to Playing Around with Thomas and Friends. This series of web shorts features My First Thomas Railway Pals, Minis, Wood, and Traverser Revolution toys. The first 4 of which feature CGI animation, the old voice cast, and the characters were in their Railway Pal forms. I know some people don't like these 4 videos because they look gimmicky and childish, but personally, I think they look pretty cute, and the lessons they teach little kids like the alphabet and numbers really do remind me of Sesame Street but without puppets. You can complain about this all you want, but at the very least, it's not canon to the main TV series, just like All Engines Go. Unfortunately, these were the only ones to feature the CGI animation and voice cast because the others featured stop motion and were verbless. Even though I liked the minis, but I honestly don't really care for the rest of this series because I kinda wish they kept the CGI animation and voices from the first 4 episodes. But my least favorite ones would have to be the 2 Wood videos, which are titled Animal Park Escape and Rocky Delivery. And I'm sure all of you already know why I hate Thomas Wood with a burning passion, no pun intended. Thankfully, both videos were removed from the official Thomas YouTube channel. It says it's unknown why, but I'm pretty darn sure they were ashamed of promoting it in the first place. But hey, if you thought those 2 videos were bad enough, get a load of this!
A real friend makes your load seem lighter. A real big friend carries it all for you. Thomas and Friends Wobble Cargo Stacker Train.
Oh boy, where do I start with this one? Not to say that the toy looks awful or anything, It does look kind of cute and harmless, but the way they promoted it just gives me bad vibes. When they said that a real friend makes your load seem lighter, and that a real big friend carries it all for you, it just sends a bad message about friendship and teamwork. I mean, you're not supposed to let your real friend carry all your crap for you. If I have friends who need help carrying stuff, I will carry half while the other person takes the other half. That way, it would save time. It would make the job easier. That's called true friendship. And no, we're not going to look at all the commercials because I really want to look at the other web shorts next. And the next series of shorts I want to discuss are Thomas's Top 5. Not much to say here, but I think these videos are meh. Why? Well, I love that they acknowledge some elements from the CGI series like Terrence Breaks the Ice, but at the same time, they could have used Stan and Nigel for this series because I think having adult actors is more reliable than using kids to talk about these. But that's just my opinion. Next up are Thomas's Magical Birthday Wishes. These were made in the 75th anniversary of the franchise. Now these ones are quite bizarre. Sure, the CGI animation is passable, and some of the vocal performances by Rob Rackstraw and Rachel Miller are alright, but that begs the question on why they didn't reuse Keith Wickham, Teresa Gallagher, or any of the other voice actors they've already hired for this series. What's worse is that when Thomas makes a wish to help his friends, he turns into a lot of weird things, including an elephant, which had to be the most bizarre transformation I've ever seen. Not to mention episodes where he turns into a rescue vehicle to put out a fire, stretches like an elastic rubber band, and lights up like a lighthouse. Jeez, say what you want about Big World Big Adventures, at least it had limitations to this kind of stuff, particularly in dream sequences. But hey, like most of the other web shorts I've talked about, at least this one is not canon either, but it's still pretty bad. Heck, the same thing goes with Learning with Thomas. This one should not be confused with the original Learn with Thomas segments, which are actually better than this new series in terms of relying on stock footage and stuff. Now keep in mind, I'm not going to review all of them because then we'd be here all day, and I want to get this video done and over with before the Halloween season ends. One of the biggest problems with the Learning with Thomas shorts on the official YouTube channel is that many of the characters like Sir Topham Hatt and Percy are completely out of character. For example, how could Sir Topham Hatt not know how to mix colors into new ones, like blue and red make green? It doesn't take a scientist to figure that one out. And here's another example. Percy doesn't even know how to count to 20 in one episode, not to mention forgetting that Flynn, an American fire engine, is a road vehicle, not a tank engine. Look, I get it. I know where Mattel is going with this series, and that we need to teach kids about this kind of stuff. But come on! Percy is smarter than this! Overall, this series is terrible, and it's as bad as Thomas's Magical Birthday Wishes. So therefore, I don't recommend watching it. Here's another series of shorts that's as bad as the last two. These are Easter episodes known as Thomas's Springtime Day Parade. From what I can tell, these were made to sell merchandise such as James with graffiti on him. Like the previous two, the CGI animation and vocal performances are fine, but it's the writing and characters that I'm worried about because they're botched just like the other two web shorts I've mentioned. But oh, you wait, it gets worse from there. The last two I want to talk about for today are Watch Out Thomas and the Nursery Rhymes videos. Just like most of the videos on the Playing Around with Thomas and Friends library, as well as the original Trackmaster shorts on YouTube, Watch Out Thomas doesn't look that interesting to me because it looks weird. What do I mean by weird? Well, for one thing, all the characters in their toy forms were voiced by kids. Why couldn't they just use the original voice cast for this instead? Secondly, the writing for each episode is just bad. For instance, There's an episode where Thomas, Percy, James, and Gordon all dress up as animals just like in Thomas's Animal Friends. And I'm sure you all know why I hate that one episode of season 24, so I don't want to sound like a broken record. Another example of a terrible video is called Thomas and the Strange Weather, where he gets covered in spaghetti. Gross. You see, this is why I don't like videos where they use toys to make stories like this. Unless if it's something like Enterprising Engines or anything that seems mature enough for general audiences, then that would be fine. But this series is so bad that I can't watch all of it. Alright, now on to the worst part of these new videos in terms of the CGI designs, and that would be the nursery rhymes. All I can say is that these Thomas videos are the equivalent of Cocomelon, which makes this series that bad. And the reason why I despise Cocomelon is that it doesn't have any educational value whatsoever. Not to mention that the songs and characters are annoying as hell. Oh, and the animation in that show is terrible too. And that's why I hate Thomas's nursery rhymes the most when it comes to the CGI era. What else can I say about it? Well, that's all I got for now, and don't worry, I do plan on making a part 4 eventually, but not right away because I want to make one more video for Tugboat Month first, whether it be a collection video or another top 5. But I won't give away the answer. Now about part 4, here's a hint. I'll be discussing the Renaissance segments including the Earl's Quiz and the ones with Sir Tom Hatt as the narrator. So that'll be very exciting. This is Trevor Davis, and I hope you all have a happy Halloween.